Okay, so here we are joined by Kathy Morrison, who is the owner of Kathy's Music. And she took a couple of moments here out of her busy schedule to share about her experience working with us here at Nips Media. And I'm so grateful for you doing that, Kathy. Thank you very much. And we always like to start these by just getting a little bit of an introduction to you and the business that you're in, and a little bit more about Kathy's Music.
Sure. So I run a music school. It's a community music school in the Pittsburgh area. We do kinder music and private lessons and group lessons. We've been in business over 20 years, and we have different locations, which can be interesting from a marketing perspective. So we have our main location in Mount Lebanon, one south of here in McMurray, and then one closer into the city in Squirrel Hill. So the school is a little over 900 students. I would say over 500 of those are kinder music, and then the rest are a combination of group and private lessons. So
Wonderful.
that helps shed a little bit of light. We have a lot of teachers and a small admin team. So that's important also when we talk about doing the marketing and follow up. So I think it's important to mention that as well. But overall, two main lines of business that we worry about marketing to, and that would be kinder music and lessons.
Awesome. Yeah, that's fabulous. In 20 years, I always like doing these calls because the person I'm talking with reminds me of how long they've been in business, which is always really cool to hear. Like 20 years, 15 years, all that. And you've been doing this a long time, which is fabulous. Um, when you came to us, we got reconnected in August. Yeah,
Mhm.
back in August. What were some of the challenges or frustrations that you were dealing with that led you to pursue the conversation with us and reignite that?
Oh, that's a good question. There were a couple of things that were we were feeling some pain over. One is working with marketing companies that didn't really understand the business, as in they didn't understand our audience.
Hmm.
And I think that can feel really hard when they think they know and they don't really know.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people think they understand kids' activities, which is fair, but kinder music is not a typical kids activity because of the heavy educational component, and also because it includes babies and toddlers, and most kids activities are 3 and up, and so
Yes.
much of our business is babies and toddlers. So I really, really needed someone to either know that or to really work with me to get to know that
Yeah.
that side. So that's one thing. Another thing is having a company that was really going to be responsive and like get to know our branding and um, just answer questions. And when I would call out and say, hey, my leads have really dropped this month, what's going on, help me understand. And I had some recent experiences in the last year or so leading up to working with you that I shockingly I just couldn't get people to respond. And my third thing was having a company to work with that was willing to evolve the marketing. Like it can't be the same all the time. At least not for ads. Your landing page can be the same, and that's great, especially if it's working. But
Yeah.
I needed someone who was willing to work with me to keep things fresh and updated and relevant and um, maybe, for lack of a better word, sometimes themed. If we are working on a theme kind of a
Yeah.
season, sometimes it's not a theme, it's more of an aspect of the business that we're going to
Yeah.
focus on.
Yeah.
And what I was experiencing was people who wanted to just create one set of ads and just let them run and run and run and run and run, and then of course, you know
Right. They start to die off. They start to die off.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think the last piece, which you and I talked very specifically about, was the cost of the individual lead was so
Yeah.
high, and I couldn't get anyone to listen to me about that. Like there had
Yeah.
to be a better way. What can we explore to get that cost of a lead down? So those were the big pain points for us.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. That's a great way of putting it. And When one of the questions that I love is just kind of framing like what were some of the specific things we did for you? And I love this question because me being the marketer, high energy marketing, branding, we're going to do all of this. I come in and explain this thing. But again, I'm in marketing, right? Just like when you would explain music, you know it like the back of your head. It's different. So I
Mhm.
always love to hear it from the business owner's perspective of what we created and what that process and formula was like from your perspective, being the one that's answering the calls and running the business on that end.
Yeah. Um, I feel like that's a two-part question. I
I think
definitely
it
want
is
to
too.
tell you
It's a
what
it's a
we
it's a
created,
big
but I also
question.
want to
Yeah.
talk a little bit about the process because I think it's really important. So let me talk about what we created, and then I'll circle back about the process. But um, the very first thing were some new ads, to get the leads flowing because we were in pain around that. We just didn't have the lead numbers we needed, and it was a high enrollment season, so we were like feeling sad that we felt a little bit behind. But it didn't take long. That first month, we worked together to get those first ads up, and then since then, really fine tuning and actually changing the ads. Because I think we're on like our fourth iteration of different ads in the last several months, which has been great. A lead funnel for real. I should back up and say an overhaul of what we had. The Kinder Music landing page was a great page, but it
Yep.
really just needed some updating and some overhauling and a fresh look. And so you really worked closely. You and your team really worked closely with people on my side to get that done. And the testing and the which was great. And then I tasked you with, okay, I need a lesson lead funnel. I don't have that. And
Mhm.
I hadn't had it in a really long time. So I couldn't even give you an old one to look at.
Yep.
And so you created that. And we're so happy to see these lesson leads come in, which is a goal, as you know, that's very near and dear to my heart, is to get
Yeah.
more lesson leads and that are quality leads. I think uh, what I what I really like now is not just that you're giving me these products, but that you're giving me the numbers behind the products, as in the results. And we're very carefully tracking the cost of what we're spending and how many leads that are coming in, and how the cost per conversion, we're getting that down. In fact, we just had a big time goal this past week that
Yeah.
we're really, really, really happy about as far as cost per lead. Um, so I would say lots of deliverables. In some cases, coming to me with a campaign idea and saying, hey, I really want you to do this, or I really want you to think about this for Black Friday. That was the example that I wanted to use. And I was like, oh, okay, we've never done anything like this before. We'll do it. And it was incredibly successful and
Mm.
brought in a whole bunch of new business in the month of December that we had not anticipated, which was great.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
so that was really exciting. So I would say um, updated ads, fresh ads, to go with these different themes, the funnels, sometimes new ideas uh, across multiple channels, because that included a texting and an email strategy as well as ads. It was across the board. We actually even created a special landing page just for that one campaign around Black Friday. So it was a lot of resources that actually came together pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Did it in a couple of weeks, and then it worked beautifully. So those were some of the deliverables. I would say an important aspect of that was the experience around it and the process that we used. So what I love is that we have these weekly meetings. I get an agenda before every meeting. We're leading every meeting with a numbers review because I'm a numbers girl, and you know that. And so
Yep.
we always lead with that. And then I'm involved in all the copy review, all the graphics review, and your team has worked really hard getting to know my brand as well as my style. So
Nice.
how I like things to look, how I like words that I'm more likely to use, as whereas the list of words that we don't use.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
And we can chuckle about it now because now I
Yep.
feel like we kind of have these lists like don't use these words,
Yep.
use these words. But that helps us be very consistent with the messaging, and I can feel really good about what's being put out there. It sounds like us, it looks like us. It's what they're going to hear over the phone. It's what they're going to read in a blog article. It's what they're going to hear when they come to visit a class. They're going to get that same kind of consistent use of values related words and experience description words. So I really love that. And there was no pushback about, hey, I don't like these pictures. You know, I will say though, I think it works so well because I was in it with you. I was like, okay, I don't love these pictures. I'm going to go find 3 that I really like and show you what I like about it. And so that was really helpful in this whole educational thing because I was learning about what was needed. And then you guys were learning about how I wanted it to be portrayed visually and
Yeah.
in print.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And one of the things you touched on that we find to be very important, we want to do with all of our clients is like, yes, we're a vendor, we're a marketing agency, of course, but we're not over here when the business is here, right? So for example, like every month, one of the things that you've done really well that I feel like we've been able to integrate ourselves in because you have it is if you have a goal for the business, we're trying to work behind you with the marketing to achieve that goal. And we don't have this separate thing happening over here, and then you have this separate thing. Like it's all happening
Mm-hmm.
in one, which I think has worked really well for everyone. Because we know what success looks like, and you know what success looks like, and we can find a groove to achieve that. So that's
Yeah.
really, really well said. Really
And
well
I
said.
would say that we've learned a lot about how fast we can achieve some goals. Sometimes we got to some goals faster than we thought. And
Yeah.
sometimes we're like, oh, okay, well, we're not going to get there as fast as we'd like. How do we adjust that? How do we learn from that?
Yeah.
What does that mean about how much we want to spend? And you've been very good about saying, okay, Kathy, so if this is how much you want to meet your goal, how much you need, like let's say I needed 10 more registrations of a certain kind, then you're able to tell me, I can get you this many leads if I spend this much money.
Yeah.
Do you want me to spend this much or not? How much do you want to rely on organic or referral leads? And then we
Yeah.
talk about that together before we set the budget. So I get to make decisions without guessing too much.
Yeah.
Like we guess a little bit, but we come in with a lot of data points
Yeah.
around what we need. And then you're able to tell me what our average cost per lead is. So I can just extrapolate out and really understand. And I can decide, maybe I don't want to spend that much. Maybe
Yep.
okay, that's a great goal and I'd like to have it, but maybe, maybe I don't
Yeah.
want to do that
Yeah.
just yet.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Um, and I think you've already touched on this really well, so you might not have anything to add. But is there any tangible results, improvements, et cetera, that you've seen since we started working together? And again, like I said, you've shared already so much, but I don't know if there's anything else specific that you want to share from a tangible result standpoint. Here we are now that we're down the line here, working together more.
Well, I will say that tied to that is a lot of the testing that we did early on. We were able to see more clearly where the leads were coming from because I think some pieces were broken from working with other agencies. And so it was really great to be able to get the tracking to be more consistent. I will say we've met a couple of Kinder Music goals, which has been pretty exciting and has put us in a good place for the start of the new annual year, not the new school year, but that new annual year feels really good. And we're seeing some good results now with new lesson leads, and it's really up to us to convert those. We've learned, I think this is important. I think I should mention this. We've learned things like how important time to lead is. That is how much time from the time the lead comes in until we respond. And we put a lot more focus on that. And we used to just say within 24 hours. And we've learned that if we can get to that a lot sooner, that we have a much better opportunity. We've also learned an opportunity to convert them, to at least try out something. And then our paid conversion rates, as you know, are great, like paid trials. If people trial with us,
Get them in the door, and the rest will take care of itself,
we do a really
really.
good job with that, but it's
Yeah.
sometimes just getting them, even though they've already said they're interested through the landing page, but just getting them to commit to trying a class, which is paid. So it's worth the money to get them to come in the door because we still make money from that. Um, but I lost my train of thought there, what I was going to tell you after that.
Yeah, just I think it was just a lot around um the some of the results are the cost per lead has come down, which you've referenced, and we know the real exact number pretty
Mhm.
much to a T, like
Yeah.
down to the couple of cents we could know, which is a lot due to on your team's end being able to have the strategic landing pages and also your ability to when a lead comes in, keeping that attribution all the way through to an enrollment.
Yeah.
So not only can we say how much are we spending per lead, but we can backtrack the numbers and okay, well, how much are we spending per enrollment, which is
Mhm.
where we can set goals, which has been really, really exciting there. Um,
Yeah.
and as also as you mentioned, being able to have a landing page where we're not just looking at ad cost, but I remember in the beginning we were talking about how, hey, if we're converting at just for an example 15% of the landing page traffic, what happens if we got this to 20%? We're getting
Yes.
25% more
Yes.
leads
I'm glad you
without
brought that up.
doing
Mhm.
anything. You know what I mean? And that was a big part of it because we knew coming into this that you had a good infrastructure of lead management. It was just about getting them through the
Through
funnel
the
into the
funnel, through the funnel. Oh, I'm so glad you mentioned that because we weren't getting good traction initially, and now the conversion on the page is higher. And so, um, every time we can even up that, a little bit,
yeah.
like another percent, when you look at the number
Yeah.
of leads that come in, is huge. So, we're learning what to tweak, and we at some point we get to say, okay, this is good. This is what we're going to get.
Yeah.
Um, and then we know how to budget and how to plan
Yeah.
according. Yeah, that was a big one. The number.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So the final question I had is, a lot of people that are watching this are considering working with us, potentially on the edge. And I always know because when I'm signing up for something too, I get the same thing of there's a feeling of fear of investing in a team, outsourcing your marketing. There's
Mhm.
just fear that can go into that no matter how long you've been in business or anything. So what would you say to somebody who's considering working with us, but um, again, has that fear, has that fear of outsourcing or bringing in another agency, or maybe it's just the investment of it, et cetera. What would you say to those people?
I think I'd say a couple things. One is um, sometimes there's a fear of outsourcing marketing because it's not your best thing. And
Mm,
while you'd love to give it up, you feel like you need to know more about it before you pay somebody to do it.
yeah.
And so if that's a place where you're coming from, then this is one of the best agencies that you can work with because they are going to educate you on each piece of the puzzle. And
Mm,
you've been very patient. Like there's a lot of things that I did know coming in, but there's a lot of nuances that I hadn't thought about from a certain perspective. And so it's been a really good experience for me to close those gaps and continue to learn. And it's helped me be more creative about how to
mm,
solve them if I really understand them. Cost, we should just speak to the elephant in the room. Like cost is always a concern. So how do you back into that number till you know how much you can spend? And I think you've got to have some clear goals about what you want to achieve. And then you have to understand also how long is your average enrollment? If your average enrollment stays for a couple of years, then you take that money, like you got to look all the way out, like what is the profit you're making off of that enrollment over a couple of years, and then start saying, if I could, if I could add, X number of new enrollments, this is how much money I'm going to get over 2 years. Can I afford to pay that? And almost always the answer is yes, you can. It's just a matter of trusting the process, working through the details. And you do have to stick with it long enough. Like you're not going to solve all of this in a month or two. You're
yeah.
going to want to dig in for a little while until things are running. And you and I have had some great conversations about how we want that to happen, playing out in the future, and how we might want some of that ebb and flow as far as when we're spending extra money on strategy and when we're pulling back. And so you're very amenable to that and listening to what my needs are and my concerns are around that. And yeah, it's been great. It's been a great experience around that. So I do think you have to be long-sighted. You've got to look
Yeah.
out and not just at that single payment, you know.
Right. Right.
Mm.
Awesome. Well, I couldn't have said it better. Thank you. That was really, really well said. And good business advice just in general of lifetime value. That's the first time I've heard that in this kind of conversation said like that, but it's probably one of the best things you said in the whole call in terms of an advice perspective too. So thank you. Thank you so much for sharing and taking the time to do this. And really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks for asking.